If you have clarity within your organizations, people understand where you are going. They might not agree, but they understand the direction that we are moving. So recognize and reward those behaviors that support the culture that you are building. And that in turn will increase your influence. We always told the instructors that I was training is don't be the sage on the stage, be a guide on the side, and you will gain more influence. Hey everyone, John here. Welcome to the episode today. How do you get ahead in your business? Do you work longer hours? Do you start showing up on the weekends? Do you just put your head down and try to work harder? I've done all of those things. And if you're there, this episode is for you. Today, we're going to discuss a toolkit. I call it the manager toolkit, the leadership toolkit, the boss toolkit that I've used in order to prevent me from just working harder. Sometimes it seems like that is the only solution to the problem, but I'm here to tell you there are 4 things that we're going to discuss today that will change your mind. These 4 things within this toolkit, used individually, you're going to see some impact. But if you can combine, if you can stack at least 2 of these principles we're going to discuss today, you are going to see a noticeable difference in the amount of work that you're putting in. The first one we're going to talk about is influence. Strategic influence has been one of those things that I have had to really teach myself and learn from others through mentorship, through coaching, just through observation, even in organizations and companies that I may have partnered with or maybe collaborating or maybe helping as a coach or as a mentor, I watch. And these things, when I talk about influence and when you think about the word influence, it's not about being in everything, like into the weeds. You don't have to know the specifics of every single thing that goes on in your business in order to have influence over those particular areas. Originally, I thought influence meant I needed to have oversight over everything. So I needed to meet with every single department head and every single employee just to figure out what was going on, how they were doing it, what their challenges were. And that just wasn't the case. I was able to gain influence in ways that we're going to talk about just by creating clarity. Leaders that are able to create clarity, managers that are able to create clarity, business owners, if you have clarity within your organizations, people understand where you are going. They might not agree, but they understand the direction that we are moving and maybe some of the sacrifice and hard work and effort that it's going to take to get there. Put that stuff up front. We're not about sugarcoating here just to get things done. We are about creating that clarity. Another way to accomplish influence is to ask questions. I was talking to somebody the other day and he was asking, as you move up in the organizations, how do you lead your meetings? How do you conduct really everything from a team meeting to an individual one-on-one to your branch or maybe your section or division or whatever organizational structure that you have. And for me, it started with clarity, but the second piece was I had to ask good questions. I learned to be the most interested person in the conversation. And you would think as you move up in the organization, that's not the case. You should be all knowing. You should have all the answers. But the farther you get from the actual tactical operation, the more questions that you have to ask. You have to seek to understand what is going on. And that allows you to get that feedback. It allows you to use that information to maybe clarify where things are going. The messages that I get when I ask good questions are, well, I'm not sure how this impacts the organization, or I'm not sure what I'm doing is an input or an output to maybe another process or system within your business. And that's a tall tale sign for you. As a leader, that clarity maybe still is fuzzy. So you go back and you restate or you clarify the intent of the message, but you do that and you get that feedback through those questions. And then third, How do you build influence? You recognize and reward. You build culture. Influence is built and established through a stable foundation of trust. And we're going to talk about trust here in a little bit. But trust is that foundation. It's what cures that concrete, that foundation for you to start building the blocks of influence on. So recognize and reward those behaviors that support the culture that you are building. And that in turn will increase your influence. So that's influence. That's one of the tools in your toolkit. And you may be really good at this. And at the end, we're going to talk about if you're really good at one of these tools, maybe just adding something extra in another area will compound the impact that you're going to have on the organization and allow you not to work as hard, or allow you to maybe step back a little bit, allow the organization to run, and then guide. Be a guide. We always told the instructors that I was training is don't be the sage on the stage, be a guide on the side, and you will gain more influence that way. And it's no different here when we're leading our businesses or organizations or our teams. So let's talk about this second tool. And when I was figuring out and journaling this morning, I always ask myself the question, what would I need or what have I found essential for building leaders, building businesses, building teams? And this second one is right up there with influence, and that's presence. Your authentic presence in your organizations, in your businesses, will make a lasting impact on the people that are on your team. I can remember those people who had a true authentic presence in my life. And I've lived on this planet for 45 years. I've met a lot of people. I've interacted with a bunch of stakeholders. And that connection is long lasting. So when we talk about the people who have made a presence on me are those that I remember. So as a business owner, what presence are you creating? And is that presence authentic? So what does presence look like? Presence is that genuine attention that you provide people. It's that concern that you have for people. And it's the support that we give our teams and our employees. That's what presence means. So for me, how do you apply presence in the day-to-day work environment? The first, check-ins. Are you checking in with at least your first team, your direct reports? How often are you checking in? And what is the format for that check-in? Try it on. I want to take a quick break from the episode today to talk about a couple things. The first thing, less than 40% of our listeners are subscribed to our channel. You would be doing me a huge favor if you click on that subscribe button. It helps us grow our Go Be Great community and get this podcast out to as many people as we possibly can. The second thing, are you a small business owner that is drowning in the day-to-day operations? You're delegating tasks and you're still doing all the work. You're experiencing a high turnover. Maybe you don't have the systems and processes in place that you need to run a successful business. I invite you to go over to bjohnespinosa.com, fill out the form to see if you're the right fit. Now back to the episode. The second one, demonstrating empathy. You yourself, the leader of the organization, the boss, the manager, need to demonstrate empathy. And this is why. It's important for others to see that side of us. Authentic presence isn't, again, being the one who is the hard-handed or the last person in the decision chain. It can be a person who shows empathy for even the toughest decisions that need to be made. It may mean downsizing. It may mean cutting back on some resources that people were depending on. It may mean really restructuring and figuring out, are we doing the right things? All of those are situations where we can be empathetic. Empathetic to people, empathetic to the organizations, and empathetic to the impact that it's making. That will go a long way in us establishing that authentic presence. And then the last one that I have here, and this is more of alignment. Nonverbal communication makes up a big majority of how we communicate with others. Verbal communication is important as well. If our nonverbal and our verbal communication are misaligned, they're not congruent, that's when people are going to figure out really quickly what we say is not always what we do, or if we say we're listening, but really I'm reading my email over here, or I'm texting on my phone, or I'm worried, constantly checking my watch. Whatever that looks like, my attentiveness, my nonverbal is me looking at somebody. Doesn't necessarily mean I make eye contact. I could be nodding my head. If I'm taking notes, I'm going to let them know, hey, I want to capture everything that you're saying just so I can go back, understand, or maybe recap. But let them know that your attention is on them. That's when I think it's important for us to make sure that our nonverbal and our verbal communication, especially when we're listening, is aligned. So alignment of verbal and nonverbal communication will help go towards your presence. Let's talk about this third tool in the toolkit today, and that's consistency. And I want to talk about the third and the fourth one together. So the fourth tool is vulnerability. So we're going to hit consistency and we're going to hit vulnerability. And out of the four, out of influence, presence, consistency, and vulnerability, those two alone, I found if we combine them, they are going to they're the fastest two principles we're going to talk about today that will create trust. And it will also create resilience within our teams. I think this one right here, these two, if we can show people that we are consistent and we're vulnerable in that consistency, we may miss a day, but we don't miss 2 days in a row. But we're human beings just like everybody else. And we do have bad days. And for those bad days, I'm going to go back and I'm going to say, yesterday I was off, team. Yesterday I let you down. Today I'm going to be better. That's vulnerability. And that's going to prove to your team that you're going to be consistent in that. So 3 ways that I wrote down here is you got to have transparent communication, even if it's a hard message to deliver. I recently had to deliver a very difficult message and I sat with it for a couple weeks. I scripted it out. I made sure that I got directly to the point. But that message was an important message for everybody to hear and for me to deliver in a very clear way. So when I talk about consistency and vulnerability, when delivering a message like that, if you haven't been consistent and shown vulnerability in your organization over time, that message is going to be received very differently than if you as the business owner, as the leader, have proven to be consistent and vulnerable. That's again why I think that it's important to combine these two to build that foundation of trust and resilience, because they understand after you deliver that message, after you deliver that difficult message, that we're going to get through this. This is going to be a pivotal moment in our business and within our team, but we will overcome this and we're going to be better for it. That's how consistency and vulnerability integrate with each other and can be very powerful if we combine those two things. Another application that I love is sharing specific moments of setback. And I do this a lot with people who I find are in a tough spot, people who I find that they don't see a way out of whatever circumstance or whatever challenge. Whether it's a leader of an organization, a business owner that may be struggling, that may be even thinking about closing the doors. How do you share specific setbacks? Are there times in your life where you failed? Are there times in your life that you've made mistakes? I know in mine, I have made way more mistakes and had way more for failures than successes. But failure is an option, and the lessons learned from those failures and those setbacks have created the resiliency that I have today. And I've seen this in businesses and organizations. As things change, you can just look at how AI is impacting a lot of businesses now. Business owners and companies, they can either become very afraid, the fact that AI is coming on board and, automating, making things a lot faster, processes, systems, positions, or you can grasp and get your arms around something like AI and learn how it can revolutionize and evolve your business faster than ever. That's just a small example here of what I'm talking about when we combine consistency and vulnerability. And as we recognize those setbacks, make sure, again, that we are consistent in the way that we demonstrate our success from those setbacks. Don't revert back into the setback itself. And then last but not least, reinforcing our values. And this goes back to knowing what your values are and having a leadership philosophy. Having a philosophy of how you lead, how you manage, how you make decisions, others can buy into that. And it goes back to being consistent with the way that we make those decisions and we follow that framework, and then the vulnerability that we have if it doesn't go the way that we planned. So those 4 things: influence, presence, consistency, and vulnerability. Maybe you have one and you are trucking along, you're comfortable with that. I would challenge you to take one of those other applications that we talked about in one of the other 3 areas maybe that you want to work on, and start combining them together. Especially that consistency and vulnerability, those tools, when combined, that's going to be gold for you and for your organization, and your employees are going to notice a difference. I hope that this conversation today was impactful. I hope that you got some applications. If you're enjoying everything, the free content that we're putting out, click on that subscribe button. You'd be doing me a favor. Share this episode with somebody that needs these 4 tools so that working harder isn't just the only option. I believe in you. Go be great. Talk to everyone later. Bye-bye. If you like what you're hearing, do us a favor. Click on that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up or leave a comment. That lets us know that what we are putting out benefits you. If you want additional information or resources or learn how to work with me, head on over to thejohnespinosa.com, because when we become better versions of ourselves, it helps us get others to where they're going. Go be great. Talk to everyone later.